I actually came up with a killer first message using all of the insights from the blog. And it was, I actually did use the word hi. Hi, Chris. Sorry if I'm being too direct. Looks like you're somebody who really takes pride in your appearance and how you present to other people. How did you manage to curate such an excellent image? 80% of women will only like or really pursue the top 20% of men. When I became single about 3 years ago, I had an Android, and I would have success like transitioning to text and whatever. And I had probably 5 or 6 women that, would respond back to me and say, oh, green baubles, haha, this isn't going to work out.
Oh my God.
And you're like, okay, they're making a joke. Like, there's a joke aspect to it, but really though, eventually I said, you know what? I'm just going to get an iPhone and see what that does for me. And it actually did boost. Like, I never really had that problem anymore. And it was a big boost in the response rate. So I had to swallow my pride a little bit.
Yeah.
But it in exchange, it like did boost the dating game, which is kind of weird.
What's up, everybody?
Welcome back to another episode of the Coffee Breakup.
Yes. Starting Christian Vieira.
And Marvin Charles.
We're back.
Crowd goes wild. So we're fortunate enough today to have a guest.
Yes.
We've been missing it for a while. We've been very busy with life,
so much
engagement, wedding, other things along the way.
Yes.
We've been working like a dog, figuring out my schedule. I'm all over the place too.
Yeah.
But we're able to get back into the studio.
For sure.
And with one of my good friends, Mr. Patrick Dyer.
Hi,
So,
Patrick.
who is Patrick Dyer? I met this man on a cruise many years ago. And it's funny because what they told me was that you weren't really a talkative person, that you didn't really get along with a lot of people. Now that I got to know you, it almost feels like impossible for you not to get along with anybody. But we hit it off, and then it's funny, we were talking about this about Mario Kart and the Super Mario Bros. on the ship. And we're there talking, whatever. And then once we get back into Miami, he calls me. And I'm like, normally the people you meet on a cruise, you never see again. This guy's calling me. He goes, hey, do you want to come over and play Mario Party or whatever? And I'm like, damn, he's calling me. He's asking, I'm not doing anything. I think I'm going to go.
Yeah.
So I had called Hell, and I'm like, hey, by the way, I'm going to go over to this guy's house. I'm going to send you my location just in case I don't come back. He goes, all right, so call me if anything, and if in 2 hours I don't hear from you, I'll call the cops.
Yeah.
But it turned out to be awesome. Yeah, it's true story. Went over. I don't know if I already told you that story, but went over, and then I guess the rest is history. So really close friends. We've been on a couple of trips already. And one thing that always fascinated me about you, Patrick, is one, how intelligent you are. How knowledgeable about, and not only that, how professional you are with things, so especially with your personal careers and stuff. And when we go on these trips, you would always talk about how, like, it's just that you're very analytical, which you can then talk about your background, because I know that's kind of how everything started. But we then started talking about dating, and then he started throwing like these facts and these bars of like these analytics on dating and profiles, what works, what doesn't, through his own research, just for fun. That's what this guy does, just for fun. And so it's exciting to actually bring you on. You're a very smart guy, and since you have this like kind of this like portfolio of like things that you've done along the way, it's like, man, I finally want to talk a little bit more about it. So yeah, I'm actually very excited, and obviously we got this guy on.
Yeah, for sure. And we've been wanting, Chris been wanting to like get you on a podcast for like months at this point already, like long time.
Years.
Yeah, years, and it just kind of never happened. And then Chris was the other day was like, hey, can we get this guy on? Like, I think that maybe really make sense. And I'm like, you know what? Let's do it. Fuck it. So thank you for being here today. I know I think you're going to bring some great insight, not just to us, but also our audience.
And that's that he's about to leave too, which we're excited to hear kind of like how your relationship has gone to the point that you're moving to Texas.
Yes, that's right. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, so there's a lot of changes now coming up in your life, and I think it's the right time just kind of have you on. So we do want to hear a little bit kind of your background. So what is it that you do, and then kind of transition that into everything else?
Yeah, so thanks, guys, for having me on. Really great to be here.
Absolutely.
So I'm a consultant and a pretty avid investor. My consulting career, I work in the analytics space, and basically what that means is I help people solve problems by using data. So I love diving deep into the numbers. I love figuring out what the story is and finding things that nobody really realizes unless you're digging under the hood and looking at the data itself. And then, as an investor, I'm not just an investor to be an investor. I have a dream like most of us do to never have to work again, to be able to spend time with the people that you love and just do that all day.
Yeah.
And so I've been investing in great companies that, are helping me get closer to that objective. So
How old are you?
I'm 34, about to turn 35, guys.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
at the end of the
wow.
at the end of December.
Yes, sir.
December.
Okay.
Yeah. So I want to know first what it is about kind of like analytics that you love, because I do know that. I don't know if it was the same job or in a previous job that you had, like you were running like almost like these like, I don't want to say a show, but almost like these like conferences, right? Where you would like, what is it? What's the word? Display, perform, educate.
Yeah, I've spoken at a few conferences. I've
Nice.
spoken. Yeah.
Like,
Simple.
what is it? There's like, you're like I guess like a spokesperson.
Host?
A host?
Yeah, so I'll teach people how to. Also, I'll teach people how to solve problems with data. Because that doesn't come naturally for anybody. It didn't come naturally for me. I had to learn. Everybody has to learn, but I like passing on that knowledge to others and developing everybody else around me. And when I happen to cross that with my dating life, that's where things get really interesting.
Yeah. So how does that play into, like, how does that, the skill set that you've acquired over the years, how does that transition to dating? And also, like, what have you learned throughout the years? We talked a little bit off camera, and I'm curious to hear your full perspective on that.
Yeah, so it probably started when I was a kid, Marv, which is crazy. I was always a great student, but I wasn't the most popular kid.
Okay.
And so the way that I just survived was, I figured I could study, get good grades, and things would work out. And when I got to be like a teen and I tried to go into the dating world, I didn't really know how to interact with women or how to date or anything about attraction. So I said, well, how am I going to figure this out? And nobody's coaching me or telling me.
So you dove into the numbers?
I dove into studying, and I went through every resource I could possibly find at the time to figure out what drives attraction, what do women want, what do people want in general. And so I dove really deep into that. And then as I got into college and learned about economics and math and data, I started to combine that with everything I had read in the books and understood to really get some interesting insights, guys.
So what have you seen that has worked for you, and maybe it didn't work, or what have you kind of discovered?
Tell us about your findings.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh.
Or results.
I would say OkCupid runs an excellent data and analytics blog, one of the
Okay.
best ones out there. They've got all the data on all the messages, matches, likes, profiles, everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I studied that and found things like, what's the most frequent keywords that elevate the chance that somebody will respond to a first message. So things like having their name in there. Okay, semi-obvious.
Okay.
Things that won't. Hi, hello. Things that will. Sorry, which I never expected that the word sorry would actually boost the response rate on a first message. And so I actually was able to use that when I went on my dating.
Like it's an opener, like,
Like-
hey,
like-
sorry, but
So I actually, when I went into my dating spree, which we can
Okay.
get to in a bit, I actually came up with a killer first message using all of the insights from the blog. And it was, I actually did use the word hi. Hi, Chris. Sorry if I'm being too direct. Looks like you're somebody who really takes pride in your appearance and how you present to other people. How did you manage to curate such an excellent image? So it's hi name plus sorry if I'm being too direct. And then something I noticed about them that's genuine. It's not a fake message.
Okay.
And it's an open-ended question about that topic or about that person that would probably be relevant. And so that was something I stitched together from the data. It wasn't spelled out like that, but between like the name elevates the chance, the sorry, open-ended question, all of that kind of combined to help me with the openers.
And I guess it would make sense for it, then the person wouldn't just respond with a single or simple response, right? They'd be able to, give a coherent response that is more than just a few words. I guess that kind of would make sense too, right?
And women are used to guys hitting them up like, hi,
Yeah.
hello,
How are you?
you're hot. And if you talk to any woman or any person, it's like, have a conversation with me. Treat me like a human being.
Yeah.
And for guys, sometimes that's easier said than done. It's just hard to think about, like, how do you connect with a stranger? But noticing something about them that's personal to them and makes them want to speak about themselves sounds obvious, but it's something that really helped me in my dating life.
I I like that. I like that. So that kind of message you've seen has worked.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about like humor or like those little jokes that are openers? Because it seems like almost like people play along to certain like I guess flirtation things, but I guess it depends on how you go about it. But I always see like maybe some people will say like a joke or something still about them. It could be like, oh, like how did you go about this, or like, oh, I noticed this, but it's always like a little joke or like a little jab.
Sure.
It seems to get a good response.
Yeah, every once in a while that'll work. You know, the way I think about it though is from a statistics and an economics point of view, which is, you know, people will say like, hey, yeah, that works on an individual basis. And yeah, that might. But the way I work is on a trial of 1,000 or a trial of 100,000, what gets you that response 60% of the time, 30% of the time? And if you're trying to maximize your odds in the dating world, especially as a guy, where, by the way, different economics than it is for women.
Right.
Sure. We'll talk
You know,
about that.
you have to optimize that first message. And for me, at least, the joke wasn't what worked. And also, it wasn't like, you know, I wasn't able to come out there as a 10 out of 10 movie star, which you don't need an opener. You know, they're opening you. But I had to use my brain and figure something out that worked for me, because the economics are a lot tougher for guys. Like, it's attention for us. It's for a guy, how do you get attention? You know, and I can go into the economics of that too. But for women, it's completely different. It's you know, you've got overwhelming attention. And how do you create the best filter possible to find the right mate? For men, it's how do you get them to recognize you and get through that filter, not just to bypass it, but ideally in a way that helps you find the right match.
And this seems like it's more for probably the more common average guy, because if I'm not mistaken, I've also heard that when it comes to dating apps, most of the women, they're like all fighting for like the top 1% of men, right?
Yeah.
So it's like everybody else is kind of just like struggling, probably wondering, hey, what do I need to do? Right?
So you're after the core of what I find really interesting about that. So I love that. There's a article on Medium where these guys did a test of Tinder, and they treat it like as if likes, or as if Tinder was the U.S. economy and likes were like dollars or money. And they studied the economy of Tinder. So if you search it, you'll find it. But what they found was 80% of women will only like or really pursue the top 20% of men. So for those that might not be like super statistical nerds like me, imagine you're in an empty gymnasium, okay? On one half of the gymnasium, there's 100 guys, and they're lined up from least attractive to most attractive. Other side of the gym, there's 100 women. They're lined up least attractive to most attractive, right? And the men have to stay where they are, and you tell the women on their side of the room, when we say go, you have to go talk to the guy that you want to be with. And as soon as you push play, what happens is you see 80 of the women on the right go to the 20 most attractive guys and wait in line to go talk to them, right?
Yeah.
And you see the rest of the 80 dudes, okay, and the rest of the 20 women that are left go talk to like maybe 10 guys that are
From
you know,
the
in
80.
70 to 80 range, right?
Sure,
And you
sure.
see everybody else below that, like just sitting there waiting and, you know, waving, and there's nothing that they can do about it. And it's not like that's any particular woman's fault. It's not like that's the guy's fault. It's like the U.S. economy. Like, who do you really blame individually? There's a lot of factors and policies and stuff, but just like that, you can't blame any one person. It's just how the game works.
Right. That's crazy, and I love that you kind of put that into like simple numbers, right? Like that's a really good way of putting it. Because people hear that 80%, you know, of women compete with 20%.
What does that look like?
Yeah, exactly. But now you're putting into people can actually
Smaller
realize
scale,
it
yeah.
exactly. That's kind of like I don't know. So it sucks, I guess, for a lot of guys, and for some women too, I guess. But if you're honest with yourself, that's I guess just the game how it goes.
Yeah, and so what that means, the implication of that, guys, is, like I said, the game for men and women is completely different.
Yeah.
So as a man, especially if you're below that 80 threshold, your challenge is how do you get attention from those women that are only looking for the top 20%? And then once you have that attention, how do you keep it, and how do you keep that great woman around? And so that's where I've had to optimize everything in my dating life, because I don't think I've told you this, but when I first got back into the dating game, I posted on one of those websites that gives you a rating, like an honest rating. And, it's hard to do because you got to it's hard to do. So it came out and it was like, you're a 6, you're an 8, you're a 7. And it averaged out at like a 7.3. And I went, okay, I'm a 7. Great. But then I knew the economics of it. And it's like, what do I do?
Yeah. So what do you think separates the top 20% of men from...
In my head, dude.
Well, I think there's a nuance to that.
Okay.
I think there's the external perception of a man by others, and then there's who that person actually is.
Right, but if it's like, for instance, on an app,
Sure.
What differentiates that?
So on an app, it's appearance, and what women tend to look at is attractiveness, trustworthiness, and smarts.
All by looks, or do you think maybe described on the profile?
They'll look at both, but
Okay.
the picture is most of it. And so in their head, they're, whether they know it or not, they're thinking, is he attractive? Am I going to be okay if I go on a date with this guy? And is he smart, somebody who's intelligent that I can hold a conversation with, or is he just pretty to look at, right? And so I actually found this service, it's called Photo Feeler, that I signed up for that was great.
Photo feeler.
Yes, Photo Feeler.
Okay.
And so the whole thing is you can upload your dating profile pictures that you might want, and you can pay for these votes, and people will go look and vote, and it will tell you where you land on each photo in terms of those 3 dimensions. So I use that to optimize the choice of my first photo. 90% of my photos are 7 to 8 range, right? But then I found one where it was in the middle of the morning. It was my buddy's wedding day. I was wearing a new tuxedo. The light was perfect. And, it was coming back like 10 out of 10 on all dimensions or up in that range. And that's where I went, okay, this is the one. So as soon as I put that on there, my matches, or at least the people who liked me, went up like 10x overnight. I literally did that, went to sleep, woke up the next day on Bumble with, you've maxed out the number of people who have liked your photo. And as a guy, I was like, that's the first time that's ever happened to me. So, for a guy, it's like, how do you do that? And then everything else, like just like a sales process or any process in a business, I had to optimize every step of that onto like even a relationship.
That is crazy that you were able to kind of get such a vivid change in response, just based on the picture that you put, the profile picture.
What do you mean by optimizing for the relationship?
So, I mean, like if you think about it like a sales funnel, right? All the way from the beginning to end. Like first step for a guy is you got to get attention, and like they got to actually like your photo or your profile. Second step is your message has got to land. And I already told you guys about what I use to optimize that. And then, how do you connect that back to either a phone number or some way of staying in touch that's off platform? And I found that moving to Instagram was always a really good move, because some people feel nervous about giving their number, but I give my Instagram to anybody. You can come check it out, which sounds kind of weird because Instagram is almost more personal, but there's something about that people seem to be more comfortable with.
I mean, I guess it sounds like because we're on an app already, it almost feels like, well, just transitioning to another app, it's almost the same thing. Cause it is true, because I feel like it's more personable. It's funny, I have a coworker, and then he's always talking about this like influencer or whatever. She's super hot, and I'm like, he goes to the same gym as him, and I'm like, oh, you're gonna see this girl today? And he's like, no, she's in New York today. And I'm just like, man, how weird.
Yeah,
that he knows that, right? And everybody knows it just by going on her profile. But it's like a number you would never know. It's
True.
like they can choose to reply. You don't know where they are. It's just a number, one form of like kind of one avenue of communication.
Yeah.
Whereas social media, you have like so much information. But I guess it just feels like more comfortable transitioning there. Because, I mean, worst case, you can always block them. And
That's the
or
thing.
you gain the follower, right? Is probably what the thought would be, I guess.
But is there any way, because this is all based on the fact that you're online dating, right? Which I guess nowadays it consists of how most people date and go on about dates. Is there any way to kind of translate this into personal dating, or like seeing each other like maybe at a bar or at a restaurant or a friend of a friend? Is there a way for that to bridge? Or
Sure. I mean, just like a business again, which is a good way to think about it, at least for me.
Yeah.
There's different channels by which you can get leads in the dating world, right? And so online's one channel, but in person's another.
Right.
And in person, one of the best resources for me was believe it or not, learning from FBI hostage negotiation tactics.
Yeah, mad creepy. Please elaborate.
Yeah, give me something.
Well, I mean, not in the sense of like anything creepy like that, but what the FBI has to do or had to do was, how do you build empathy with somebody very quickly
Right.
and get to understand who that person is and build a relationship with that person? Because it's not about any kind of manipulation, but it's about like, how do you get to know, how do you get other people to be
Like
open
open
to a
up.
conversation? And it sounds crazy again, but you have to be genuinely interested in the other person. You have to be empathetic to them. You know, read their face, read their body language. Seems like you're upset. Something seems to be bothering you. You know, what's going on? And whether you're right or you're wrong, it gets a response.
Right.
And you can take that response and start a conversation about any topic. Yes, I am upset, actually. You know, I ordered a drink at the bar. They gave me the wrong one. They gave you the wrong drink. You know,
Yeah.
that's can I get you a, you know, different one? Something like that opens up the conversation. I mean, I typically wouldn't go for that direct out of that, but you know, just opens up a conversation.
Interesting. And did you have anything you want to?
I wanted to
into that
kind of
one?
go back into the online dating before we continue getting into
Okay.
personal.
Yeah.
You had said so I kind of want to help whoever is thinking in the audience. I think we kind of understood kind of the playbook of social media of online dating, and I guess it really starts with the right picture, right? We had this guy, remember, Playing with Fire, who
Yes.
he would literally work with men one-on-one consulting, and would start from the dating profile, and he'd be like, look, these are the type of pictures you need to be taking. And I guess to your point, that's the first avenue. So anyone who's maybe struggling would be, hey, take better photos. Would you agree?
Sure.
What else do you think would then build a strong profile? How does then one, because the pictures is one thing, okay, visually, check. What else would have to be like on the profile that you would think or that you've seen works for men?
I mean, something different and eye-catching. You know, for me, I'll say this. Polarization is one of the things that drives attraction.
Okay.
Meaning, if you're in the middle of the road and you're like everybody else, generally it's not going to drive attraction.
Mm-hmm.
But something that completely turns off, upsets, or is not interesting to one group, but is completely interesting and attractive to another is a very good way to build attraction. So on the profile, you want to have something that is polarizing, not something ideally like, you know, whatever side of the political aisle you are.
Wear like a MAGA hat. You fucking pop up.
Vote for Hitler.
You know, honestly, that could be polarizing in a good way. Like if that's your political situation, like that could attract other people who are very interested in that to start a conversational topic.
Right.
So
So
even that might not be the worst. That's better than like, I like hiking and I go to the gym a lot and I have a picture of me with a pet fish.
I was thinking that the
Like,
fish.
At least the MAGA hat, somebody's angry with you or is attracted to you. And even the anger is at least a reaction.
Yeah.
It's like I was talking to a guy the other day and he was pretty upset. We accidentally left him off of a discussion or a feature that we were trying to do. And he's like, why didn't you guys put me on the feature? And it's like, oh, we just didn't think about it, man. He's like, I'd rather you guys tell me you didn't want me there than not think about me at all. Right. And that's kind of how it is in the dating world.
I get, yeah, it makes sense.
Okay. And yeah, because it almost seems like if it's too broad, like, sure, anyone can come in, but there's nothing enough for them to be triggered to react or to reach out. Whereas kind of having some sort of something polarizing, it's almost like, okay, well, maybe I exclude these people, but now I know that I'm really going to attract the people who probably do agree.
Sure, like a challenge.
Right.
You know.
Oh, okay.
90s kid, $100. Anybody who can beat me in Mario Kart. I might not want that on the dating profile,
Yeah.
but it would attract a certain type of person,
I see
right?
what you're saying,
That's
yeah.
you know, polarizing. It's like I don't want a guy who plays video games. Okay, well, you know, then they're not going to match with me. But
Right,
if there's somebody
right.
who's like, this guy's fun. I actually want somebody I can play with and you know have a good time with, and isn't just too serious about everything. Might attract that type of person.
It's almost like maybe, you know, going after like with a sniper focus rather than a shotgun approach, being more focused on actually getting a response and more targeted than I hope something lands.
Exactly, and you
Or
have to
something.
do that because I mean, look at the stats as a guy. It's the top 20%. And that varies, by the way, per woman in many cases. Like what one woman thinks is the top 20% to her is different than another woman might prefer. So being polarizing actually has a better chance of putting you in that top 20% for her.
And down to the detail, because then you said transitioning outside of the dating app.
Mhm.
You'd said that social media was easier than it was getting the number.
Yes.
Do you find, was there any reason, or do you think that that's kind of why?
I think just, I think some people feel like there's a commitment when your phone rings that you have to respond. But if somebody sends you a DM on Instagram, you can check that whenever you get to it. It's not like you've got a firm commitment. You can pretend like you never saw it.
You never, I never go on Instagram.
Oh, I never go on Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah. Or you don't even get a notification on Instagram sometimes. You just see it when you see it.
So people are more comfortable just saying, like, I'm not obligated to respond. I don't have a firm obligation. If this person has my number, they know my personal details. So it's just a more comfortable situation, for both parties in many cases. And you can use that to transition into like a dating situation.
So should the idea be when you're on a dating app, shouldn't the idea be to get off the dating app as quickly as possible, and then maybe even just omit the Instagram, like, hey, exchange numbers, whatever.
But I guess it probably would depend. Would you approach being like, hey, let's grab numbers, and they're like, oh, IG instead?
So the usual way I'd ask is, I'd connect on some topic that's relevant, get something started, and say something like, hey, send me a text so I have your number, or hey, add me on IG so we can connect.
Okay.
And the "so we can" is key to what I just said. Like, shoot me a text
So we can.
so you can have my number, which sounds like nothing, but it actually significantly increases the chance that you'll get a number, or that they do it both in person and online.
Right.
But it's so that the why, you could say anything. Shoot me a text so that we can go shoot turkeys on Sunday. They might look at you weird, but it's, just that language triggers the human brain to think like, okay, there's a good reason for it.
Yeah. And I think that you have a personal experience also trying to transition through text message, that I think you found better results once you switched from,
Oh my gosh.
can we please, I would like for you to say
We can
this
go there. So being a big nerd my entire life,
Preface.
Team Android for life, right? Better software, better features. The iPhone people, the Apple people are going to hate me for that, but it's true. And so I was that way my entire life. And when I became single about 3 years ago, I had an Android, and I would have success like transitioning to text and whatever. And I had probably 5 or 6 women that, would respond back to me and say, oh, green bubbles, haha, this isn't going to work out.
Oh my God.
And you're like, okay, they're making a joke. Like, there's a joke aspect to it, but really though,
They're serious.
it's different, because I know that, well, I'll get to that in a second, but after enough of those comments, one girl was like, we can't keep talking if you have green bubbles. And I was, I'm like, are you serious? But then it happened a second time, and then it happened a third time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, at least I didn't think it was me. It might have been a convenient excuse. But eventually I said, you know what? I'm just going to get an iPhone and see what that does for me. And it actually did boost. Like, I never really had that problem anymore. And it was a big boost in the response rate. So I had to swallow my pride a little bit.
Yeah.
But it in exchange, it like did boost the dating game, which is kind of weird.
Interesting.
That's crazy. I've heard, people say it like in a joking manner because it sounds almost too dumb for it to be a serious thing. But it appears
But that just goes to show you.
Yeah, because it is dumb. Like,
So-
I'm not going to continue to talk to you just because, like, we can still text. You still get the message in the same rate, call, like, all these things. But it's not a blue text bubble.
Yeah.
That is
you
crazy.
should have put on your profile #Android for life.
Yeah.
That
That's
way-
polarizing.
That
It
way,
is.
you would then have the green bubbles texting you. Or instead of text, you could have just gone on WhatsApp.
WhatsApp, yeah. Which,
I think that's even worse.
Could have done that too. So
Imagine.
I had a fight between 2 philosophies when I did that, right? One philosophy is to be genuinely yourself, as long as you're actually like a good, decent human being. I mean, it doesn't help if you're not. But then the other aspect is like, you have to optimize the process, looking at the data and the economics of it regardless of how you feel about it. So I had the clash of two worlds of like, this is who I am, how I am. I'm a nerd. I love the tech side. But then I said, look, if I want to find the right person for me, and I really want to do that the right way, as strange as it sounds, I got to switch to iPhone and just swallow my pride a little bit.
But then the argument would be, would the right person really care if you had an Android or an iPhone? Like your current girlfriend, you think she would have any objections if she would have texted you and you would have like green text bubbles?
I think there would be a barrier
maybe.
there. It's
Okay.
subconscious, right? I don't think most people were like, I think most people probably listening would say, oh, that's not me. It wouldn't bother
Silly,
me, but
yeah.
it's silly. But subconsciously, that's what happens. So
Look, I'll be honest. Whenever we have a group chat and I see that there's green text bubbles, I'm always like, all right, who the fuck here has an Android?
Yeah.
I'm the first one to start picking them out. And then like I'll sometimes even create another chat and just kick that person out and have two chats, one with the Android, one without.
Yeah.
yeah, because the images don't go through, the GIFs don't go through.
Exactly. It's like you're changing the whole experience.
Yes.
Because of your preference.
And I found that too, like where even my family wouldn't necessarily include me in the group family text because it was too much to deal with. It's like my parents are like, oh, we're going to FaceTime your sister, but we can't FaceTime you. So, wouldn't bother with that. But after I switched to the iPhone, it actually changed the relationships with friends and family too.
Family.
Didn't, just to kind of go off topic really quick, but since we're talking about it, didn't Android try to obtain the technology from Apple in order to kind of incorporate
Be able
those,
to FaceTime also and stuff?
incorporate that and get because people are aware of that this is like a real thing.
Yeah.
And then Apple was like, no, like we're not gonna give up the technology or at least the right in order to do this.
Well, actually, the Android technology has been ahead in many ways for years.
It always is. I almost feel like Android's had everything, and then it's like iPhone, brand new, we're doing this, and it's like Android had it like 3 years ago.
But Apple created their walled garden of iMessage, which is a different set of protocols, different way that the technology works, and said only Apple devices are going to be allowed to use that
That's right,
protocol.
and they're firm on that.
And so now they've more recently said, hey, we're going to open that up, which I think is a strategic mistake.
They're planning on opening this up?
They're planning on opening it up is what I've read about, of opening it up so there's blue bubbles coming in, but that's really like a big barrier to entry that Apple's keeping that walled garden by having that up, and it forces people to continue with iPhone.
Yes.
Or to buy the iPhone in case they want to gel with everyone else, like their family, friends.
Yeah, and so by dropping that requirement, I think
crazy.
From a business perspective, probably not the best, but I imagine there was also probably some regulatory pressure there too.
Could be. I just wanted to kind of drop that in there. But interesting. So it's crazy that you firsthand experiences, because we've seen video, you see memes and stuff like that, but you're in the flesh, you can experience and test, speak on that matter. So interesting.
Yeah.
You had wanted to say something that I wanted to go back into. Do you remember?
There's one thing that I did want to bring up. It's because obviously you explained very well in a way where you explained how, top the 20% of men, to compete for, or 80% of the women compete for the top 20% of men. What have you seen can men do other than that, like in order to kind of leverage themselves? Like you obviously a successful guy. Have you noticed that financially you're able to like leverage yourself in a way where you can kind of get out of that and put yourself on top? Because there's all these other things that you can maybe do, but a lot of people, we say it or we see it, like money makes the world go around. You feel like if you're successful, everything else is kind of comes second.
Yeah, so success, and especially financial success,
Right.
like anything, helps. It helps better. It helps more than not having it, right?
Sure.
I think most women want somebody who's ambitious, who has drive, who's trying to achieve something.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as that comes through authentically, there's a higher chance. Like if you're in the top 1% of guys who are ambitious and trying to achieve things, that increases the probability that somebody's going to see you as their top 20%, right?
Mm-hmm.
Financially, the way that, I was able to leverage some of those resources was signing up for the top tier of Tinder. So you can see who liked you. You can get more visibility, super likes, which tells somebody, oh, I should probably at least take a look at this profile. You know, all of that was one way to optimize that part. I paid for photo feeler. I paid for a lot more votes so I could get a bigger sample size so I could get better understanding. That helped. I was able to go on more dates, and I actually took 2 weeks off of work to just go on dates at the beginning of my dating.
Okay.
3 years ago.
What? I don't understand. Explain. How did this experiment?
So
Why?
I became single about 3.5 years ago after a long relationship, and I decided I wasn't going to wait. I know that the peak attractiveness for a man is typically around 32 to 34 when he's got the best chances of finding a partner. And I said, I'm going to treat this like it's one of the most important things that I'm going to do in my life, which if you think about your partner, it's big.
It is.
It's big.
Yeah.
But most of us just kind of like, oh, I'm just going to go on a date with this person. No, I took it seriously. And I, for 2 weeks, took time off work, optimized the dating profile, optimized the first message, optimized everything. I went on 14 first dates in 2 weeks. Some of it was 2-a-days. Some of it was a day off. But 14 first dates. And so you mentioned the finance and success aspect, like that cost $7,000 roughly to go through. Like probably the first month was like $7,000 on dating. Just to appropriately take the right people out and see if there's a match and have a good time.
Where would you take these women and to end up spending $7,000?
Well, it wasn't just $7,000 on the dates. It was kind of also involving in the optimization of like the dates and the profiles and stuff like that.
Sure,
as well, right?
all of that too.
Okay,
and
sure.
you know, first dates, you know, you're not going to drop a big amount of money on that. That's not a great decision, I'd say, to do, and it also sends the wrong message too. So,
Sure.
First dates, it was mostly like try to get to know you. I had a book of like dates lined up or themes of dates. So I had one which was off to the races, where it was a combination of like taking her to a nice Italian restaurant, and then there was this go-kart place which had kind of a Ferrari theme. And as long as I knew that she was more of a fun type person, might take her go-karting. Usually a second date is better for that one. And then a third date where you can talk and get to know or not a third date, excuse me, a third portion of that date where you can get to know her. So I broke it into thirds typically, which was feed the person so they're in a good mood and feel good. Some typically light activity where you're competing, which is great, or just something interactive.
Mm-hmm.
And the third where, it's optional. If you feel it's appropriate, if it's going well, you've at least got a place to go to have a good conversation. And I found that 3-step process was great. And I came up with like 26 or so different kinds of dates. And I tried not to reuse them because I liked to have unique experiences and create those experiences for others. But I found that to be most successful.
And these 3 portions will be one single date?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so eat, activity, and then optional would be if they wanted to kind of continue, hey, I liked it, kind of want to continue getting to know this guy. Or it's perhaps you probably had some that it kind of ended and you're like, hey, it was fun, see you later. And then nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
Then after those 2 weeks, did you see some or multiple people like on multiple times, or was it just one date? That's it?
Yeah. So I got into a situation where I was talking to 10 different people at once.
How many?
10.
Oh, shit.
And by the way, every single one of them knew I was talking to or seeing 10 different people. I found that being authentic and open and honest and direct, instead of being something that scared people away, it was so refreshing for most of the people that I was seeing to know what was going on, that they actually found that more interesting and as something that they respected rather than something that they ran away from.
Okay.
So it was tough for a while there with talking to 10 different people and keeping the conversation straight. But, I did.
And to do homework, like research the night before, like, okay, what am I going to do tomorrow? Okay, I said this. Okay, next.
And what was weird, though, was for the first time in my dating life ever, on every single one of those, I was the one who said no. I was used to growing up, hey, I like you. I had a good first date. Sorry, not into it. Sorry, not into it. And this time I had the opportunity. I was fortunate enough this time to really have some selectivity of who I thought was interesting and worth seeing again. And so the second date, that's where you really get to know the person.
Yeah.
And then third dates is where third, fourth, fifth, that's where I felt like making an intelligent investment in that relationship and in that person made sense. And I would spend a bit more money there to have a great experience for both of us.
This was the third date, you said?
Third date, yeah.
Okay, well, what's a little bit more money? Can you give me a little bit on
Yeah, what would that look like?
Like how much?
So if you guys are ready for it, I'll go into the current girl I'm seeing.
So before that, I did want to ask you, what did you learn the most out of those 2 weeks?
What did I learn the most? Wow. I learned a lot of what I'm sharing with you guys now, which is that choosing your mate and finding the right person is one of the most important things you can do in your life for you, and that you have to take it seriously. You don't necessarily have to take 2 weeks off of work like I did, but you can't just treat it like, I hope the right person comes along and that one day my prince or princess will come. Like wishful thinking, but not reality. It happens, but that's not optimal.
It requires effort.
Requires effort, like anything in life. You get it. Imagine if you spend as much time in your dating life as you did working out or fitness every day. Most people don't do that,
right,
when they're single.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess some people, they just get so tired of it, so burned out, and then you're like, okay, because there's a notion that you say, if the right person will come into your life, and it'll work out, it'll find you whenever.
If it's meant to be.
Yeah, if it's meant to be, the harder you look, the harder you're trying to do it, the less likely you're gonna find that right person, right? So I guess you're kind of giving a little bit of an opposite lesson from that perspective. Like,
Yeah,
you're gonna have to.
Which turned into now your current relationship, correct?
Current relationship. So how
did that start?
So I was on the dating apps. I was talking to 10 people, like I told you guys.
Okay.
And I had this date lined up with this gal that I'd matched with on Tinder, and I'd shifted almost entirely to Bumble, which I think is a lot better for most guys for various reasons. But I went back to Tinder to basically confirm the date at the end of the week, and when I went back, I found I had a new match with somebody, this absolutely gorgeous woman that looked very kind and caring. She had a picture of a dog that she was carrying. She had a picture of her helping clean up trash at the beach and taking care of like animals. And one of the most important things for me is that the woman I'm with has to have a heart of gold. And so that really caught my eye as polarizing. Not just I like wine, I like hikes, I like yoga, but like I care about other beings and I care about, being a good person. And so I matched with her and started talking to her on there, and I wasn't even looking on Tinder. And so we hit it off, for a day on that platform. And, we started to talk about a date, and I said, when are you free? She said, hey, I'm free tomorrow. And I had already had a date lined up with the other girl that I'd set up on Tinder. So, I had a difficult decision to make. And, I asked Jade, my now girlfriend, I said, hey, can we push this off to like next week? Can we have a date next week? And she's like, no, it's either tomorrow or nothing. And I was like, okay. So I messaged the other girl and I said, sorry, I'm going to have to move our date, and decided to go on a date with Jade. Took her to Astra in Wynwood, and I got there a little bit earlier than she did. And I remember this black car pulled up, door opens, out I see, Barbie pink heels, black mini skirt, pink top, hair all done, gorgeous. And she steps out, and I just remember sitting there and going, is that my date? Oh my gosh, it was Jade.
Okay.
And so I took her to the rooftop at Astra. We sit down at the table, and we're talking a little bit, and she's kind of, indifferent about it for a few minutes. And so we get to talking about dating in Miami, and she's like, yeah, I've been on this many dates in Miami. nobody gets a second date and nobody ever gets a third date. And I'm like, great, I'm a meal ticket.
Fuck.
And yeah, so she kind of put up that challenge. And so I really, I just treated it like, okay, this probably isn't going anywhere. But, I just had a good, empathetic conversation with her.
So you just made the best of it.
Made the best of it, right? And asking questions about herself, treating her like a human being, being a decent human being, like all those things that sound crazy were actually, pretty unique from her point of view. After that, I mentioned the Wynwood Walls, which were right across from Astra. And I said, hey, you seen Wynwood Walls? She said, no. So after the date, we walked around, saw the Wynwood Walls activity where we could still talk and have a good time. And then casually noticed that the wharf had game night going on with like Donkey Kong and Miss Pac-Man at the wharf. Yeah. So I asked her to jump over there. So we jumped over there, had a good time. Ended the date pretty well right there. And then it became a second. And then
broke the record.
She took, I went on the second. She said, some guys get a second. She said, nobody gets a third. I said, okay. And so for the third, I knew I had to go big.
What'd you do?
How big?
So
wait, before that, what was the second date?
I took her to a nice Italian restaurant by her place.
Okay.
She loved the beach and the ocean, and there was the beach and the ocean right next to it. So we walked over there after the Italian restaurant and just walked on the beach and talked for a while, and then walked her back to her place.
Okay. That was it.
That was it.
Okay. So then third date has to be big, and that was?
So this was right at the tail end of COVID. And her mother, she hadn't seen her mother, who lives in Dallas, for a couple years. And she wanted to see her. And one of my buddies invited me to Dallas to go hang out. So I turned to Jade and I said, hey, I know you haven't seen your mother. You want to see her? I'm going to Dallas. I'd love to have you go with me for a weekend trip. And so she sat there and she's like, third date with a guy flying to Dallas? Okay. And booked a flight, went out to Dallas, get there to the hotel. I booked one of the Autograph Collection hotels. Got the Marriott points from all my consulting years, luckily.
Nice.
And we get there, and she'd been stressed recently with her job and a bunch of things going on. So I tell her we're going out. Right after we get there, we get checked in the hotel, get comfortable. I tell her we're going out, but she can be pretty chill outfit. Get in the elevator, stop her on the 4th floor. We get off at the 4th floor. She's sitting there going, what's going on? I take her straight to the spa, and I got her 2 hours of massage therapy, facial, nails done, back massage, everything else. And she's like, oh my gosh, this is like one of the best. Like, exactly. And so I said, have fun. I'll be back in 2 hours, just relax, get a chance to chill.
That sounds amazing.
And then
But you guys stayed in the same hotel? You guys stayed together in the hotel?
stayed together in the hotel.
Okay.
She almost got us killed, which she's very caring. She cares about the environment. She cares about the planet.
Okay.
Walking down the street in Dallas, and this orange Dodge Challenger rolls up, blacked out windows, down rolls the windows, smoke billow out,
Right.
and there is a plastic cup that's thrown out onto the sidewalk right in front of Jade and I. Without hesitation, she picks up that plastic cup
Nice.
with water still in it or whatever was in there, chucks it back through the window into their car. And there's all kinds of curse words coming out of the car and things I'm probably not going to repeat on air.
Yeah.
And they, and I'm like, we're getting shot. Like we're not going to survive this situation. And I'm like, Jade, let's move. And so we walked, and they followed us for a little bit. And I took her through a park, and there was like a cop nearby. And, we just kind of hung out there for a bit until they just disappeared. So we survived.
Okay.
Yes.
But she learned that, there's a way to save the planet. But in order to save the planet, you have to actually be alive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Save the planet without sacrificing.
Doesn't help to get a shot in Texas.
Yep.
Which is pretty easy to do.
So then what else consisted of that date? Was there more when you guys did for this third date? Or was that like where she's like, how did she respond after that?
Well, so
Because at that point, you're probably like, hey, no one gets a third.
I I got a third.
That's it.
So we get towards the last day of the date, and we're back at the hotel, and I'm saying, or we're talking about, going to a fourth date, and I'm nudging her about the third date, and nobody gets a third date. Well, I got a third date, and so we get talking about the future, and she's like, "Hey, I like you. I think maybe we should see each other more seriously. I know you're talking to a lot of different people. I'd appreciate it if you, didn't. Yeah." And I was like, well, I don't know about that. And so she actually tackled me and said, no. She's like, "I want to be with you." I was like, "Okay then."
Okay.
So I agreed to end the relationships with the other people I was seeing.
And be exclusive.
Did so, yeah, and be exclusive. And so I did that the next day, and I showed her that I had done it. And as she tells the story, she was actually talking to one of her friends the next day, and she's like, "Last night I told this guy to end the relationship with all these other women. I don't even know if I want to be with him long term yet. What did I do?" So she was kind of hesitant about it. But after that, we actually, things turned out okay.
Okay.
But this is kind of like a two-way street, because you also could have said, no, maybe I want to do something else. But something about Jade must have been like, hey, I want to continue being here, right?
There's something, a lot of things very unique about Jade. One of those is that Jade knows what she wants.
Oh, yeah.
And she goes after it. And I respect that, because I think there's a lot of people in general
Afraid to vocalize it, right?
afraid to vocalize, or don't ever think about it, or, it'll fall into my lap. Whatever happens, happens. Prince Charming will come. Jade looked and searched and knew what she wanted. And when she found that, she said, "I'm not going to let this go. This is somebody who, I think I could see a future with, that matters to me with what I've seen so far.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to let that slip through my fingers and just hope that he chooses me out of a bunch of people he's talking to. I'm going to take control of my life, and I'm going to do something that is bold and polarizing, and go after the person that I see myself potentially being with."
Yeah.
And I really respected that and appreciated that she was so direct about what she wanted. And I think that's been a cornerstone of our relationship too.
I love that. Arguably, you can also make the argument like you liked her enough to fly her halfway across the country, spend a weekend with her on a third date, same hotel, all that and stuff like that, and you really put an effort in. Yeah, it makes sense for you guys to be exclusive at that point, or at least head into that direction. Because why else would you do all this if you didn't really were interested in?
That's right.
Was part of it like the challenge of getting the date that she wasn't giving anybody else?
I was thinking that maybe.
That was absolutely part of it from the first date.
Okay.
Yeah,
First date, I was like,
getting it.
I'm absolutely going to get a second date. And second date, it was like, I'm absolutely going to get a third date. And the third date, it was like, well, we'll see what happens. And yeah.
So she planted a seed at the first date.
Yeah, maybe,
Or
maybe she
Patrick-
should be sitting here telling you how she found the
Yeah,
right guy for her, right?
Probably, right?
I like that. That's amazing. I never heard the story. So I'm very excited for you guys. I mean, obviously, this was 3.5 years ago, 3 years ago?
3 years ago.
Yeah.
This month was our, what we call anniversary, and we have a debate about what's the anniversary.
Yeah, but why? What's wrong? Which, by the way, did you have to ask? Because I think we've talked about this. The older that we get, like, do we really have to ask, like, our partners out? Like, do we really have to have a date? And apparently most women care about that. You're slightly older than us. Was that even a thing? Like, did you have to ask her out? Was that?
Formally, I guess.
Dude, Christina was telling me, like, yeah, I get that we're together. And I'm like, bro, we've been together for a year. Right? Bro. We've already been together for like a year. It's like we're basically together. She goes, no, you have to ask me though. Like we need a date.
So how did you ask?
Damn, I don't even remember. I don't remember. I just know the thing is, she got out of a relationship with for 4 years, I think it was. And although we've had a connection, and I've known her since I remember her in kindergarten. I sat next to her in kindergarten. I had a crush on her, but it's kindergarten, whatever. We rekindled in college, and then I'm like, she goes, oh, hi, I'm Christina, or like someone introduced me to her because she thought I was cute. And it's like, oh, my friend thinks you're cute. Her name's Christina, whatever. And she goes, oh, hi, I'm Christina. I'm like, I know who you are. I sat next to you. I actually had a crush on you in kindergarten. She's like, what? I don't remember you at all. What are you talking about? What grade? What class? Where? We tried dating here and there. It wasn't serious. And then, after that, we grew up a little bit more mature. We kind of knew what we wanted. And she had just got a relationship, so I took the first year kind of slow. Well, at least the first 6 months. I'm like, I want to make sure like I'm not a rebound. I'm just not like a stepping stone just for her to get over her ex, especially after a long time. So then about like 6 months, 7 months there, I'm like, okay, I think this might be something very serious. So at that point, I'm like, okay, I know I'm going to ask her. I didn't think about asking her. I'm just like, okay, like, like this is it. Like I really want to really fully commit and really be a good guy for her. And then at the end of that, she's like, oh, yeah, like you have to ask me out. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Why? The following year was in February, and I was like, you know what? Like, I at least want to stick to a number that we're going to remember. So in case anything happens, we can't forget the date. So I had asked her out February 22nd, 2022. So 22222. It's an easy number. It's kind of cool. It's a little place. So I was able to do that. I don't really remember how I did it, though. I think we had gone out, and I'm like, oh, well, so I think I wrote her a letter. And then I we were there, we had hung out, I think we went on a date, and then I gave her the letter, and I'm like, oh yeah, so this would be the official if you want to be my girlfriend, whatever. And I think she still has the letter actually. And that's how I had done it. But yeah, I had to do it. And apparently you were debating about a date, so you did have to ask. Well, apparently it still matters. You need to ask out your significant other, specific date.
Well, I don't know if I had to or not, but what happened was, we'd had that third date, where I told you what happened there. And, but it wasn't quite girlfriend, we hadn't defined girlfriend, boyfriend type situation yet. And, one of my best friends, Roman, wanted to meet her. So I took her out on a date. This was probably like date 5 or 6 or whatever. And
okay.
So, I see Roman, and as soon as I see him, I'm like, hey, this is Jade. Jade's my girlfriend. And Jade's sitting there, and she's going, in her head, she's like, we never defined. This has never been defined
since when.
And so then she's immediately like, girlfriend, and I'm like, and Roman's laughing about it. She's like, I guess I'm his girlfriend now.
Oh my
and
God.
so she was like really happy and really,
okay.
So she was happy
nice.
about it,
Very
but
cute,
it's just like we'd never had that defined, and so I think to her it must have mattered because it jumped out at her, and that's the moment where she, like, when we talk about it now, 3 years later, that's the moment she remembers as we are officially together. I'm your person.
So where's the debate?
Well, it's
whether that is
it the time on the third date where she said get rid of everybody else, or is it when I accidentally called her my girlfriend with my buddy Roman? And so we've kind of anchored on the date that I called her my girlfriend.
And
with
when
Roman.
is that?
What's that?
What date is that?
That's November. Come on, guys.
That's funny. Okay,
We're
so
gonna edit that one.
This guy doesn't remember. We'll cut it out. We'll cut it out.
All right, my apologies. Well, anyways, so you were so since that moment, what year? So 3 years.
This is 2021, November 2021.
So you guys have made 3 years together. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And not for nothing, I know that you're well traveled. I know with your career, you were forced to kind of travel to different locations, different cities, and with your consulting background to really help people. So I know you've been all over, not probably the world as well, but I know you're very domestically, you've been all over the place to help. I know that you were in San Diego at one point, correct?
Correct. 3 years.
You've been here in Miami for how long?
7 years.
And it seems like you're going to be taking, your talents to somewhere else. Is that
Plano,
true?
Texas.
Plano, Texas.
Plano, Texas.
So what's next on the horizon for you guys? It seems like it's getting pretty serious.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah.
You could say that. We're really happy together. She's been living with me now for about 8 months in Fort Lauderdale. And I've been really nervous with insurers backing out of Florida and the condo market and some of what's going on in that space. So decided to sell the condo regardless. And as far as where we were going, didn't really know. I've wanted to be in Dallas for a while. I've got good friends out there. And it just so turns out that her mother has a house that she's lived in for 30 years and decided she wanted to be in Colorado for a bit, but didn't want to sell the house in Plano. So her mom asked if we would watch the house, clean it up a bit. And, I said, hey, that gives us 6 to 12 months of no rent, no mortgage. We can invest the money and help accelerate our path towards, ultimately financial freedom and doing what we want to do.
I love it.
That's amazing.
So that's where we're headed.
I love it.
Okay, so Dallas, and not for nothing, I do want to kind of identify something here. Can you lift up your left hand, please? Turn it around the other way. Bling blow. I don't know if I saw that last time. Not that shiny thing. So it seems like Marvin is officially, well, you've been officially married, but that ring now is a symbol of that.
Yes, absolutely.
Before I pose a question to you, and I'm going to prep you so you have some time to think about it. Give us a little bit of an update on your current situation now.
We talked about this a few weeks ago. But yeah, so obviously this is my wedding band. I'm super excited to be wearing it. Show it off.
It's nice, man.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. So yeah, obviously, like, officially, Claudia and I were married already. November 1st is our marriage date. We are having a party, wedding celebration in January. You'll be there. Chris will be there. So just to kind of celebrate with the people that we really love and we really care about. It's not a full-blown wedding, but it's somewhat close to it. And yeah, so that's kind of where I am now. Just got the wedding band in the other day, so I'm excited. But so many changes happened. I proposed in September in Bali, and then we got married November 1st. Like, so many little things, and there's more to come. We'll talk about it more soon. But yeah, lots happening.
That's awesome. Congratulations,
Thank
man.
you. I'm very excited. Claudia's an amazing woman, and
Congrats, man.
I'm very honored. So
Exciting, man.
Yeah.
Excited for the future as well for you guys. I
Thank
know you
you.
have big plans, so.
big plans coming up, big plans happening. We'll probably do like a little honeymoon in January, and then after she'll change her last name as well. So it's a lot. It's a lot happening.
That's how you know it's serious.
Schultz.
Yes, 100%. This is a prerequisite.
And Marvin, I mean, what's been interesting watching you guys with the coffee breakup for years is like, it's almost come full circle for you, where like the inspiration for the coffee breakup was you coming out of a sense of loss and getting over that grief and helping others with that. And as you've evolved over the years, there's a maturity to you. Like you've matured in your life and in your relationships. And now it's almost come full circle to where you've healed a lot and you've come to find a partner that you know and love so much that now you're married. I mean, how does it feel when you reflect back on like the journey you've gone through?
It's possible.
Yeah, it's for sure.
Possible.
That's an amazing question. And thank you guys for stating that in that way. And you're right. I think younger me would be incredibly proud and humbled by the person, the version I am today. I've learned so much, and obviously I'm not perfect. We still have our little things and quirks and imperfections, and as we all do. But I've learned so much about myself and my flaws and my insecurities and my strengths and weaknesses as well. And just kind of like living with Claudia and kind of like building a life together. We really kind of harness that love and devotion and I'm just so proud to be with her and all the things that I've learned, the guests that we've had on the podcast and the people that we've met, the doctors, the nurses, like every episode that we've had, and at this point we're at 180 episodes, 181. This will be 182. So much knowledge, and I couldn't have thought or prayed for a better experience. So yeah, man, it's been an amazing experience, and yeah, literally full circle. Like this is the podcast is a byproduct of like a really, really tough breakup that I had to learn a lot from, and I really had to look into myself and be like, hey, who am I? Who do I want to be, and who do I not want to be anymore? And so I think I came out at the other end of it a lot stronger, a lot better, a lot more humble.
And you mentioned there that some of what you've learned on the podcast has helped you in your relationship and build a strong relationship with Claudia. Can you go into or say a little bit more about how that's helped you?
Yeah, for sure. And a big part of it is we've had Dr. He's also going to be you're going to meet him. He's going to be at the wedding too. And he's been an amazing source of like knowledge and like just kind of helping us and guide us and teach us about, being a good partner, being a good man. You're realizing that, and I tell Claudia all the time, it's not you versus me, it's us versus the problem, regardless of what that is, whether it's financial obstacles, a career, or lifestyle changes, or whatever is happening. Like, we're on the same team. Sometimes you kind of forget that, it's not, the goal is, no argument is about, I want to prove you wrong, or I want to make you like suffer, anything like that. No, because I don't want to, The goal of the argument is not to beat you or not to win. It's like for each other to see where we're coming from and kind of learn from that. Like, this is, why do you feel this way? Okay, this is how I feel.
And how to work together, right?
Exactly,
To, like,
navigate.
solve.
Exactly, because I will never 100% understand where you're coming from, and vice versa. So like, let's let's try to be empathetic and be understanding. But yeah, I just overall learned so much about myself and how to navigate and be in a good relationship, be happy with myself. And I'm not perfect. I'm not 100% there yet, but I've gotten so much better. And so just kind of overall trying to become a better partner. And it all starts with, with yourself, with myself. We wrote a book about it. We got a card game. It's called The Basics, where, we really, it's literally a byproduct of everything that we've learned over the past, at this point, 4 years. 4 years and some change. So, yeah, it's been an amazing journey. And I'm just so incredibly grateful to have learned all that I have. And I know there's so much more to come.
And Marvin, you mentioned, the importance of being and becoming a good man and a better man.
Yeah.
Can I connect that back to what we talked about a little bit earlier?
Sure. Yeah.
So, I talked about the first step for guys is getting attention. And the second thing that you actually have to do is you have to keep that attention. And it's not just that you're dancing around, waving your arms around to get attention, but it's how do you keep the right person around? And you mentioned being a good man and becoming a good man. And I think that's where I've seen some of my friends and some men that I've talked to struggle a bit is, I've got the woman's attention. I've been on a date or two. There's one of my friends I won't mention who, he goes on 20 different dates and the girls don't stick around. He's interested, they're not. And he's a good man, but there's some aspects of, his career and his life that he needs to work on. Mm-hmm. And so I think that there's that aspect of like, you genuinely need to become the best version of yourself that you can be. And, what have you done to become the best version of yourself, Marv?
Oh, you should be sitting in this chair, man.
Yeah,
he's
fucking drilling me right now,
the
dude.
tough
Yo, these cameras
questions.
are about to overheat, bro.
Yeah. What have I done to become the best version of myself? Honestly, it's all about looking from within and realizing that there's a lot of struggles that I still go through, that I still deal with, certain insecurities, certain things that I deal with, but it's acknowledging them, going to therapy, big advocate of therapy, becoming better, not just okay, like I'm good now, like that's it, I never have to improve again, but also continuing to do better, to be better in my career. Obviously, I'm not where I want to be financially, but at the same time, I'm like so much better than I have been. So it's acknowledging like there's different stages in life. And it's okay to want to achieve more and do more and be more, but you also got to be grateful and have the gratitude and humility to understand like this is where you are. Is that's a progress. That's a process. And one day there was a time where you prayed to have what you have now. So many years ago, I'm with an amazing woman. I'm healthy. I have my family around. I have good friends. So a lot of these things that I'm like, look, I should be grateful, And so it's having that gratitude, having that empathy. But also knowing that, like there's more that I want to achieve and other things, aspects that I'm focusing on. But I also have to slow down and realize, look, where I am today is exactly where I need to be. And I got to be grateful for that. But again, it comes with, self-improvement, going to therapy, still having goals and aspirations independently from your relationship as well. Because sometimes it's easy to forget that. But yeah, overall, just kind of trying to work better and become better and be better.
And I admire that a lot about you. And, both of you guys is, neither of you guys are jerks. You're great, genuine guys. And I say that not just to compliment you guys, but to say that, I think a lot of the women that I've talked to, or some of them will jokingly or seriously say, oh, I think I'm just attracted to jerks, or I only like guys that are assholes. And, I think there's, a dimension of that deserves being mentioned for the women too, which is, if you think about becoming a healthy person, a healthy man, a healthy woman, it centers around boundaries and not just in the abstract. And what I mean by that is everybody has things that belong to them. That's typically time, money, and energy in those buckets. And where somebody who has strong boundaries is great is they have the ability to protect those by drawing almost a circle around them. So a boundary, a healthy boundary, is the ability to say no to the things that are not good, productive uses of your time, energy, or money, but also being willing to open a door and say yes to the things that are. Mm-hmm. And where I get into like the jerks, assholes sort of conversation is what people are attracted to, and especially women with men, is women are attracted to men who have healthy boundaries, who protect their own boundaries, because evolutionarily speaking, if you're with somebody who is able to defend the home, defend your family, you're going to tend to be better off. Now, what's tricky is someone who is assertive, meaning they defend their own boundaries, often looks the same as somebody who is a jerk, who attacks other people's boundaries. And they both happen to be really good at defending their own boundaries, but that sense of I've got something I can feel out, touch, trust that this person is the person that I know, that's something that is very attractive. And it just so happens that really good assertive men and jerks seem to be the same on the surface. So I always say, don't look for the men that are just jerks, but look for the men that have strong boundaries and healthy boundaries and can protect you and, your family and your relationship. So I admire that about you and about Chris, that you guys are both, very respectful of others, but you're also very assertive with, the own assets in your own life.
Yeah. I mean, the way that I think about it is like, I think that your voice in your head is always going to be the loudest voice in the room. However, it's not the only voice in the room. So it's like being strong, being confident, being powerful about the things that you care about, but also being open and aware that those aren't the only things that others will care about. So there has to be a trade-off. There has to be some sort of reciprocation, to a sense where it's like understanding, where you were saying like, hey, I may not know everything, or like kind of where you come from, but you can either say, well, this is my way and this is how I understand, and that's how you got to figure it out, like to be receptive of it. Where instead you got to be open-minded and that kind of find a way to come together to find the solution, which may be a little bit uncomfortable sometimes, right? But it's in a way that as a couple, instead of having the problem be versus each other, it's like coming together to solve that joint problem. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's kind of the most important thing is just being very empathetic, but also, being open to respecting those boundaries, being firm on your boundaries, but then having the openness to not attack, like you said, but almost be receptive and kind of understanding of others. Yeah. I had brought that up because someone's engaged in this room. Someone is married in this room. Someone isn't. So for you, it seems like you're making these really big changes, especially with your life, and to slowly start wrapping up the episode, just in case these cameras go off. How does that look like for you? What's your opinion on when it comes to marriage, wedding, and all these things, especially with the big goal that you guys have to really retire early and be financially well off and enjoy life?
Yeah.
How does that look like for you guys, or especially, I guess, for you?
Our relationship is better than ever. We're stronger than ever. We're very happy with each other, and we intend to be with each other for the long term. And so there's been discussions about the topic of marriage and being together. And, where we're at is it deserves more discussion.
Sure.
And,
okay.
I know that's not a great answer. That's probably not the deep answer you guys are looking for. I'll say this, though. We've started this ritual about actually 2 years ago now called the Life Dinners, which is the perfect forum for us to discuss that. So that's coming up, babe. We found this on Twitter, actually, and it's a way to stay strong. It's made us stronger than ever. And once a month, we dedicate a dinner, and the dinner is very structured. It's 3 parts: personal, professional, relationship. We take turns. Oh, I like that. And, one person starts. Personal. What's going on in your life personally? What are you struggling with? What are your goals? How can the other person help you? And that person is able to talk without interruption for as long as they need to go. And then once they're done, you discuss it focused on that person.
Okay.
Then you switch. You do the same thing for personal. You move on to professional. You move on to relationship. And it's been the best thing for us because it's been the perfect forum for all those little things on a day-to-day basis that you say, now's not the time. But you actually have a structured time where you know that you can come in and say, hey, this bothered me. I'd really appreciate it if you did this differently. And so we've had those discussions in the Life Dinner about what the future holds for us. And I think that one's on the marriage topic is a little bit overdue. So, we'll see how that goes.
So you've been able to kind of dodge a couple bullets, but
Not much longer.
about to get hit.
I'm very fortunate to be with the person that I'm with.
Okay,
And
absolutely.
I love her, and she's exceptional human being. So, my feelings on marriage are, why get the government involved in a relationship between two people? I feel that, I love her, she loves me, we have intentions together. Why would I want to judge in the middle of that? And that has nothing to do with her and everything to do with just how marriage is structured in the United States, at least.
Does she echo the same beliefs and views, or is there a little bit of a disagreement?
I wouldn't say echo, but she understands. And, I think she's just looking for some sense of promise in our relationship. Like, I've already given her assurances over that, and some sense that, she's going to be okay, and that we're going to have a life together. And it's not just I'm going to wake up one day,
Like a sense of security.
walk out, and it's like, what do I do now? So there's some sense of security that
Yeah.
she deserves, and that, I think most women and men deserve in their lives. So it's a discussion.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I love that you guys are having this. I might have to implement that too.
I like that
life
one too,
dinners.
actually.
Really like that. So just to kind of piggyback off of that, what Claudia and I started doing is we're going on walks around this neighborhood. It's not the beach, but it's we'll go around the compound a few times. We'll leave our phones here, so we'll just go out for a walk and we'll talk. And so on a smaller scale, but we kind of do the same thing. And I really like that you have it structured like that, and that you guys can allocate time once
It's
a month.
focused, right?
Yeah, it's focused, intentional. Which life is so busy, there's so much going on, you forget it, but like this is a really good way of kind of allocating time for each other, and having also like life updates as well, like what's going on in our life and on our relationship, and what can we do better, what can we stop doing. So I really like that. I'm gonna have to piggyback off of that.
Well, it's back to like how we even started the podcast of like really having a sniper approach and really structured to make sure that, the things that need to be talked about get talked about, the things that need to be solved get solved, the things that are concerning are discussed. Because if not, you just walk around just to talk. You guys can talk about anything.
Yeah.
And then you guys tangent into something else where I guess to a certain degree, it's still involved within that time that you'd allocate for the one party to speak. But at least there's like kind of like a goal. And almost like, I guess every single month when you do these live dinners, there's like updates. And then there's like, okay, well, hey, we talked about this last month. Like, let's address this now. Or maybe this is continuing is where the opportunity would be to discuss.
Sure. She can sit down with me and say something like, hey, babe, I find you attractive. You've gained a few pounds, go take care of it.
Yeah.
And, that's an appropriate forum. I'm sitting there and, it's not like it's a random Monday morning where I've woken up and she's like, hey, you're fat, go work out. Like, it's in a caring forum of like, I care about your health. I want to be with you for the long term. Please do something about that, but in a kind way. Right. And
That's love.
so whether it's finances, whether it's health, whether it's job, it's been one of the most healthy things for us.
Very nice.
I think it's great because it's you're allocating the time to actually discuss the things rather than those situations like, oh, you wake up one day and it's like, what the hell happened? Like, why? It's almost like, hey, like this, we want to encourage this in order to feel vulnerable to a certain degree, to be able to talk about the important things that maybe most people don't. So the fact that we do have these monthly check-ins, it encourages us to have these type of conversations that may be uncomfortable, but it's in the environment that it's welcomed in order for there to be kind of solution.
Yeah. So it's not like, oh, why are you bringing this up now?
Yeah.
Like,
How long have you been?
Yes. No, I'm bringing this up now because we agreed this is the time to bring it up. So
Right.
And a month is the perfect time. It's not 3 months. It's not every week. It's once a month. And at that frequency, most things can be handled.
Yes, I like that. I know our cameras are going to slowly giving out, but this has been an insightful episode. I feel like there's going to be a part 2 coming, and maybe the next time you'll have your maybe
Senorita.
future missus, maybe.
Who
sitting next to
knows?
you, or just life partner, whatever you want to call it. She could maybe potentially be joining us. But Patrick, thank you so much. Anything else you wanted to circle off with, or?
So before we go, we will get into a final thoughts. We can go into the final thoughts, and then I'll have like a PS. I have a question that it was brought up to me all the way at the end, so nobody hears it.
Okay.
So yeah, it's what is it? I haven't had to do this with a guest in a while.
It's time to break up.
It is time to break up. It's not you, it's me, it's us. It's the cameras actually.
But I love you.
So with that being said, I love you too, but it's time. With that being said, we always like to end the episode with the final thoughts, and at that point, it's just kind of something that's you feel like is most important. It could have been something we've already discussed, but now we can zero in, sniper approach, kind of just address the most important thing to you and kind of something that you want to share with the audience, whatever is literally like the most important thing that you kind of want to leave off with.
Yeah, so I think we've talked a lot about tactics and numbers and everything else to optimize dating, you know, and the tactics are important, but I think the thing that I don't want to lose is the forest through the trees here, which is, you know, if you can be the best version of yourself, meaning you're able to, you know what you want to achieve in your life, you're actively going after it, you're ambitious, you're taking care of your health, you're taking care of your financial wellness, you know, that's going to be attractive to most people. And by becoming that person, everything else that deals with the appearance and the outward perception of you becomes a lot easier because you don't have to pretend. You don't have to put out, you know, something fake or something necessarily the most witty. Just by being you, you're going to attract the people that naturally are attracted to you. So, you know, if you're struggling with that, I'd say focus on becoming the best version of you by health, wealth, love, and finance, those dimensions.
I like that.
It's incredible. Patrick, thank you so much. It's truly an honor, and I'm extremely excited that we're actually able to finally get you on. Were you satisfied?
Like
with
always.
this?
Always.
Like always? I always leave you satisfied?
Yes.
Okay. So with that being said, we are going to be completely done. Patrick, thank you so much. However, is it true that one of our close friends who's coming on Wednesday had to kiss a dude to get to his girlfriend?
Yes. I was there for that.
What?
I was there for that, and we were kind of shocked.
What?
Find out on the next episode of the Coffee Break. Till next time.
Are you done? Oh, shit. Okay. Ciao, guys.